What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 746 of the Smark and Smack Talk Podcast Hot Tags edition of the week. I am, of course, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And, of course, thank you to everybody that's listening to us. You are a part of this as well, so we always want to know what you have to say, so chime in with whatever thoughts you have in whatever method that you want to. One of those is to join our Discord server. The channels that are over there you can be finding on the link that you can see on the sidebar of smarkandmoment.com. If you are on Spotify or if you're on Apple Podcast or whatever it might be, even smarkandmoment.com, comment section there. But you could also be on YouTube right now. And if you are, make sure that you not only leave your comments, but you hit that like button, you subscribe, you ring your notification bell, all that good stuff on that front. Make sure that you also join the YouTube channel membership. Even $1 a month, greatly appreciated. $5 and up, SAB block forgiveness, and the early access if we recorded anything in advance. $10 up, Darkcast tier, etc., etc. So if you're interested in that, or if you're interested in some merchandise, pick up the different things on Redbubble and TeePublic. Help us out on that front. Another reminder of the Smark Madness tournament that's going on right now. Who is the greatest rival of AJ Styles' career? If you want to vote on what you think the best enemy of the Phenomenal One is, you've got some more days left for this current round. We're on round 3 right now, so it's just about over. We're on the semifinals. So, was it John Cena or Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, and Christopher Daniels, I believe, is what the lineup is. So, vote on that while you can, and keep this rolling along here. Based off of the way that this has been going, I could see that heading in one direction more than anything else. So, we'll see what ends up being the finals and stuff. But while you can, make sure you go back and check out the Mount Rushmore podcast that we had done too, if you're interested in that. And then, that's a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. But hot tags, we got some things to talk about here. So let's start diving in. Let's go with one of the oddball, not like steady flow type topics. Let's talk about some New Japan. Now, you, of course, are tapped into this way more than I am, but you said that the New Japan Cup final is happening soon?
Yeah, it's happening this weekend. So the tournament's been obviously running for the last month or so. And the semi-finals last night was, I think, it was actually it was earlier today. It saw Callum Newman defeated Shota Umino, and Yuta Uemura defeated Oleg Boltin. So the final is now Newman versus Uemura. I think it's interesting because it's two young guys, which is something that New Japan desperately need to start pushing. So that's useful. Uemura is kind of the more established of the two of them because he's not exactly been pushed to the heavens. That's no young guy in New Japan has for a long time, but he is seen as one of those, I guess, upper level guys that everyone expected to reach this level. Newman is interesting because Newman is someone who they expected to reach this sort of level, but maybe not as quickly as he has. Newman, for anyone that doesn't know, because he has been primarily just tied up with both UK independents and then going into New Japan, is essentially Will Ospreay's protege. And
I actually didn't know that off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's the de facto leader of United Empire now, even though there isn't really a significant leader to it, but he's now considered to be the main guy of the group. And yeah, I don't know whether he'll necessarily win this match. It would be a really big statement of intent with him, because even if you win the New Japan Cup, there's no guarantee that you will win the championship, even if you get a title opportunity off the back of it. But it does give you a certain level of cachet. I think the last British person to win it was probably it was either Ospreay or Zack Sabre Jr. And I think Zack Sabre Jr. won it quite a while ago, well before he ever won the world title. But it was the signal of, okay, this is a guy worth paying attention to. So if they were to give that to Newman as well, that would be a big deal. But Uemura versus Yota Tsuji does feel like a more I'm not say conventional match, but one of the matches that you would have expected for this generation of New Japan to become like more of a featured rivalry. So I don't think there's like necessarily a wrong decision. To say the wrong decision would have been to put someone who's just been in the world title scene for way too long, or just isn't really gonna like move the needle at this point in their career. But yeah, I say I'm interested to see what the final result of this one is. If I was to guess, I'd say Uemura.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have a guess?
I'd say Uemura just because I feel like that's the more conventional route to take. But
what does the winner get?
They get a title shot against the world champion.
Not the
I don't know. I can't remember when exactly.
Right?
It'll be just for the regular New Japan World Championship or the IWGP World Championship because the Global Championship is only available for people that are outside of New Japan.
That's right. That's the whole setup of that. Yeah, I mean, I'm unaware of the pros and cons of either of them at this moment or whatever, but I would assume that they probably wouldn't take the belt off of Yoda anyway, so it really probably ultimately doesn't matter all that much who wins. Other than you gotta have feuds, so it sets up somebody to have a match, and then it works. It's as simple as it can be. Yeah.
It's one of those weird things where I think Uemura is going to win, but I think if Callum Newman does win, then Newman wins the title. It does feel like one of those things where they would shoot a guy up to win the title off the back of it, and he's got more of a heelish edge to him than Uemura does. Uemura and Tsuji feels more like a traditional, respectful. Like these guys obviously don't like each other, but they're on the same sort of alignment. Whereas Newman he's veering towards that whole like original Zack Sabre Jr., original Will Ospreay heel dynamic, which got them to like the top of the company. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Where it's like I think Tsuji's going to win, Uemura's going to win, and then we'll lose to Tsuji. But if Newman does win, then I would back Newman to win the title. When
is the match after like whoever wins the cup? When do they get the title shot?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't think it wouldn't be Dominion because that's way too far down the line. So I think it'll probably be like an event they do in April.
And then you said that the G1 Climax is in Chicago, and that starts somewhere in July?
Yeah, so the G1 opening night is going to be like a bunch of tournament matches, which will be taking place in the Now Arena in Illinois. So, yeah, that'll be the July 11th show. So we won't know who is going to be competing in the G1 Climax 36 until Dominion, because that's when they announce it on that show. So that won't be until like mid-June. But the fact that it's taking place in Chicago for the first night does at least point towards the fact that there will be some American participation. And you would imagine that because they're doing it like this, that there would be at least one, if not more, AEW wrestlers in it.
Yeah. I mean, they've been putting them for the past couple of years, at least like one person in there, right? They've had like... what was it, like Jack Perry, I think might have been in one, like Kingston might have been in one or something. I forget like who exactly. Those were a little like while ago. I think last year obviously Takeshita won it. Right. Takeshita is a rare case, but an interesting case of someone who is obviously multiple contracted to New Japan, to AEW, and to DDT. So like he was the only guy that has an alignment to AEW that was on that card, and obviously he's not American. Not that that's an issue or anything. And then the year prior to that, Takeshita was the only AEW representative. So really? They haven't had a strict person just from AEW come on to enter the tournament since I'm trying to see on. I was thinking that they had like 2 at least per year, but yeah, now that I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what?
So 33 was the last one, which had Kingston enter, and that one also had like Kaito Kiyomiya of Pro Wrestling Noah, and since then they haven't really invited outsiders as much. Like Takeshita's the closest thing to an outsider that they've had. So yeah, but the fact that they're going to open this one in America, which they haven't done for a while. I think they have done like G1 shows in America for I think like 2019 before COVID. They started doing that for one of the shows. But that does give a bit more of an indication that they'll have someone who is more of a stateside draw. Because obviously you don't have the likes of, there's no Tetsuya Naito, there's going to be no, Okada, unless Okada decides to compete in it, but no Okada, no Hiroshi Tanahashi. Like, a lot of previous top names that New Japan would hang their hats on aren't going to be on that show. You imagine Takeshita will re-enter as last year's winner. But you've got, and then you'd have the usual names would show up, but I would assume that, and I don't know who it would necessarily be from AEW. It just depends on who's doing stuff that needs them to be around. But
who they can allow to go there and to lose ultimately, most likely, but not be a no name. Like, I mean, the grand scheme of things, you can throw almost anybody into a spot and it could be like, yeah, okay, I guess you understand where they're going there. But like the likelihood that they would throw in like an Action Andretti is probably pretty low. But they could throw in somebody like I don't know, maybe like a Wheeler Yuta or somebody could be in there, or maybe Roderick Strong, or
I think it would need to be someone higher up the totem pole. Like if I was to hazard guesses at them, I would say John Moxley.
Like probably not.
Yeah, Hangman could, because obviously he's still going to. There's Hangman, John Moxley. If he loses the Continental Championship, which seems like that might be coming in the future, depending on how the feud with Ospreay goes.
They've done stuff with Beast Muertos before, right?
Yeah, but again, he's just too low on the totem pole, I think. But he's like, again, we might see someone from CMLL joining as well, because they obviously have that relationship. They'd sort of put like a Mystico, Mascara Dorada in or something, but Mascara Dorada is probably more for the junior side. But Brody King,
maybe that AEW star Gabe Kidd could,
yeah, or David Finlay,
or Clark Connors,
it's
just, like, hey, can we borrow those guys?
Yeah, but you got like Brody King would feels like a New Japan sort of guy that sort of build would like really fit into New Japan. Andrade as well. Andrade's worked with New Japan recently. Like, he was part of the last US show they did, so it would make a lot of sense. Yeah, well. Yeah. So I think there's plenty of options.
They could toss in a Speedball or Kevin Knight, or any number of different people like that. But I guess it all depends on, first off, who wins the cup, and then who wins the title after that, and then you got Dominion, and then you got who's going to be announced for the G1, and then it's easy to skip all the way to Wrestle Kingdom, right?
Yeah, and it also depends on like the format they decide to go with this year as well, because they've obviously have flip-flopped with things over the years where they've gone with, like, sometimes they had 4 blocks of like 7 people. Last year they went back to the usual 2 blocks of 10 people. So yeah, so it'll be depending on what format they decide to do, how many people will be participating. And that will obviously limit how many people from outside promotions can even compete anyway. So
another thing outside of the WWE, but tangentially through WWE, Chuck Norris passed away at age 86. He has that connection with WWE in the sense of him being the special enforcer for the casket match between The Undertaker and Yokozuna at Survivor Series 94. So that's like their big, like, hey, remember Chuck Norris was involved in that. Chuck Norris is, this is where we start to get out of like we're getting a little bit into the Fanboys Anonymous side of things and stuff. Totally an icon for the whole, like, if you grew up anywhere remotely in the 80s in particular, 80s, 90s, you were subjected to a couple different things when it comes to Chuck Norris. The memes came after the fact, but Chuck Norris was a big star for quite a while. Walker, Texas Ranger, and movies and everything. I've seen a few of his movies, and none of them are good. But it's, none of the Steven Seagal movies are good, or like, Van Damme doesn't have any Oscar-winning movies or anything. So it's like, what you're getting with like a Chuck Norris movie. Go back and check out the Invasion USA podcast that we did way back in the day in Fanboys, because that was one of those wild, the fuck are we watching type movies. And Chuck Norris is a guy that yeah, I was like, a fan of to a certain extent and everything, but at the same time, I wasn't like the main thing that motivated me as a kid of being like, yeah, you know what, above all else, I love me some Chuck Norris or something. But it's always sad to see that somebody passed away, and RIP to the friends, family, fans, and all that stuff when it comes to Chuck Norris. But as somebody who's outside of the American scope, I would assume that the Chuck Norris reach does not land as well for you, right, Callum? Or am I different?
Well, it's just someone who doesn't watch movies. Chuck Norris
there's that too.
Land so much as me, but I know of him, and I knew that like the reputation that he held in terms of just being like viewed as this, quite one of those traditional like American, well, not necessarily American, but American and Americanized like muscle men lead characters, or like fighter lead characters. Your Steven Seagal types, or Jean-Claude Van Damme, that kind of ilk. But yeah, but it's like the only movie that I ever recall knowing that Chuck Norris was in that I saw was Dodgeball. Because he has a cameo in it as one of the judges when they go to the sudden death, and he's the one that accepts like go with Vince Vaughn being able to go to the sudden death. And it's obviously like upsetting and like best wishes to friends and family of his. But I'm not going to be able to list my top 5 Chuck Norris performances, unfortunately.
I mean, neither could I. If you can, drop a comment below with your favorite things like that. There were so many different examples of like, they all bleed together. Like, I couldn't tell you the difference between Delta Force and, I'm blanking on even like some of the other ones. But yeah, they're all the same. It's, hey, I'm a big tough guy and I'm some military CIA, whatever thing. And then you get like, I'll do the funny thing. He has a movie called Top Dog, which was like, how do you anticipate that is? He's a cop and his partner's a dog. It's kind of, they're all on that spectrum and stuff, but they're fun, silly, ridiculous type stuff like that. And he was part of one of the Expendables movies. Last movie that I had seen of Chuck Norris was Lone Wolf McQuade, which I continue to forget the name of. I always want to call it Long Wolf McQuail or something like that. And they're silly fun of back in those 70s 80s types of things. And like I mentioned, Walker Texas Ranger, like you watched Monday Night Raw in the 90s, Walker Texas Ranger and stuff. So it was a big part of those things. And go back and check out a Chuck Norris movie this weekend if you want to honor one of the greatest memes that had ever been a part of that whole generation. Speaking of celebrities, we got another one to talk about here. Dennis Rodman is going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2026. So this is a weird class right now. We got Stephanie McMahon, AJ Styles, Demolition, and Dennis Rodman. Not at all. If you would have asked me the day after the Hall of Fame last year, I would not have been able to guess a single one of these. And Rodman, of course, has his ties to WCW and the whole NWO angle and everything like that. He didn't really do anything in WWE itself, but that doesn't matter. They still induct people that are outside of the company. I haven't heard Rodman's name in a long time. I don't know what the hell that guy's up to. I don't know if he's gotten any better or if he's just as much of a problematic celebrity as he was before, but he was controversial to say the least. I remember having some fun watching that stuff in WCW back in the day, but again, I was always more of a WWE guy, so there was that disconnect there, and of course, that was not going to be like my favorite thing that was happening in pro wrestling at any particular time, but if you're looking for celebrities and names and people that are interesting to bring in there, it wouldn't have been my first pick for a celebrity induction, since we have like Cyndi Lauper and, other people that I would rank higher, but go ahead. Put Rodman in there. Why not? Right?
I mean, I'd say like there's very few celebrities that have main evented wrestling pay-per-views, and he did main events. The Bash of the Beach pay-per-view with that tag team match with Hogan against was it I'm trying to remember it. Yeah, Diamond Dallas Page and Cole Malone, and you're not going to induct Cole Malone after after some of like say Rodman's bad, but like there's a different level with Cole Malone. But yeah, and technically weren't the main event, but they're classed as a quote unquote main event of the show. You know how it's a free night main event on a big show or whatever. But yeah, as I say, I think that Rodman is a bit of a controversial figure, but the fact that we haven't heard his name in a long time does give the suggestion that he's not as controversial as he used to be.
Yeah,
because if he was doing that stuff, we would know about it. Like I said, the last thing that I recall was the stuff that he was doing, like in North Korea, that like befriending Kim Jong Un, who's obviously not the greatest look.
That's something that I completely forgot about.
It's just one of those things that just was circulating around at the time, but that was it's literally about 15 years ago, so it's not like that doesn't change it, but it's I don't suppose he's made too many visits back since then. But yeah, and I mean obviously in wrestling, outside of just doing the stuff with WCW, he was also the first ever winner of the Celebrity Championship Wrestling Tournament. Do you remember this?
No.
So yeah, there was a celebrity. I remember this. I saw it on so it was it only went for one season, but it was a wrestling celebrity reality show, which was it had the judges of Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and Jimmy Hart.
I wonder who spearheaded this.
Yeah, so Rodman was in it. I didn't know. I knew a few of the people. Well, at least one of the people was the only person I actually knew. But it was Dustin Diamond was on it.
Oh wait, this sounds a little familiar now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it had a lot of the names I'm not super familiar with, like Todd Bridges, Trishelle Canatella.
Bridges, I don't know. Trishelle was on The Real World or something.
Yeah. Danny Bonaducci.
Yeah, I don't know him.
Butterbean. Erin Murphy.
Erin Murphy. Sounds a little familiar, but...
Yeah. Frank Stallone, so younger brother of Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. Tiffany Darwish. And Nikki Zeerling, who was her Wikipedia lists her as her claim to fame was she was Playboy's Playmate of the Month for September 1997.
Nikki, what was her name? Nikki
Zeering. Ziering.
Don't recognize her. Shot, but that's I mean, she was from Playboy, so yeah, it makes sense. Oh wait, she was in one of the American Pie movies, I guess. That's just generic hot chick, but yeah, sounds like an amazing setup. I probably would have watched that if they did that nowadays.
Yeah, they did some things where they started to take on week 3 they started to get they were given a gimmick, and Rodman's was Rodzilla.
Yeah,
that was his gimmick, and then he was given a finishing move of the diving clothesline.
Huh.
Yeah. So yeah, that was basically how they built it up to, and then he won the championship in the main event against Mr. Not So Perfect, who was Todd Bridges.
Mr. Not So Perfect.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here's the whole list. So Butterbean was one mean bean, rather than the fact that Butterbean himself is a gimmick now.
One mean bean.
Danny Bonaducci, dangerous Danny Bonaducci, in not exactly a most creative name. Todd Bridges, Mr. Not So Perfect. Trishelle Canatella, Red Hot Redneck.
They took 30 seconds for each person. They were good enough.
Well, Dustin Diamond's one was the winner. That was
the winner?
Yeah.
Not even something Screech based?
No, it was just the winner. That's his name. then Erin Murphy, Mistress of Mayhem, MOM, which is quite interesting. That could actually work. And then Candy Girl for Nikki Zeri. Some of them had already been eliminated by that point.
Somebody should have gone with like a bunny related thing for that. Well, maybe it would have been a copyright thing or something, probably.
Yeah. But anyway, that's like one more thing that Rodman was doing. So in this wrestling related. So I'm sure that's the main thing that he's being inducted for.
Absolutely. I mean, they're going to get the footage for that thing, right?
Yeah, the CCW Championship. I wonder who inducts him. I'm guessing just based on the fact that he was in that match was DDP.
You know, that makes the most sense. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Like, now that you mentioned that, I don't even think that there's really anybody else that could induct him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, technically they could throw anybody in there, but like, as far as things that would make sense, yeah. DDP?
Yeah, the only options I'd say is DDP for being in that match, or Bischoff for obviously hiring him for WCW.
Yeah, and I don't think that, given the two options, I think that they'll be able to get DDP not only cheaper, but that it'll be easier for them to get him. That's funny. DDP is he's got his connections with Cody Rhodes and stuff, so that might be an easier thing too, to just be like, call Paige up and just be like, yo, Dallas, you want to do this? And they'd probably be like, oh yeah, hell yeah, that'd be great. And he's a good enough public speaker and all. Crazy to like just go back and like before we got started and everything, I was talking about the Chuck Norris thing and the Dennis Rodman thing with Caroline, and she's like, he did what in wrestling? Dennis Rodman did something in wrestling, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, what did everybody do something in wrestling? Is this just like, if you were any bit popular at all in like the 90s that you were in there? And I was like, yeah, I mean, Jay Leno did, and like it's kind of, when you start tossing out names, it's just like,
oh yeah,
sure, of course.
You start listing all of the like celebrity Raw general managers as well.
Oh god, I mean, if we got into that, we would just be, tossing out people from Jersey Shore and like random NASCAR people and all over the place.
Well, Snooki wrestled at WrestleMania.
I mean, sure, yeah, she's got a WrestleMania match, which is more than what like so many people could say. It was easier for her to get on the card than Jerry the King Lawler. Like, how insane is that? Yeah, so Dennis Rodman.
Maybe Jerry should have been on Jersey Shore. Maybe you would have gone to it if he was on.
I'd have watched Jersey Shore if he would have been on it. That would have been a lot more fun. God, imagine him on that show. Jesus Christ, that would have been a fucking mess. Another like outside of the mix things. Finally, took them long enough. Got some word on American Gladiators. April 17th is when the show is going to start. And they're doing this in a weird way that I hate when they do these kinds of things. But, I mean, there's, to a certain extent, I understand why they do it. There's going to be 3 episodes on the Friday, the 17th premiere, another 3 the week after that, and then 4 more the Friday after that. So a staggered release to a certain extent of 3 weeks worth of stuff ending on May 1st. And for anybody who's, unaware and, doesn't remember when we were talking about this before, the cast of American Gladiators, the reason why we're talking about that right now, Miz is hosting. And then the people that are involved, some of the Gladiators are WWE and AEW based. Kamille is one of them. Wardlow is one. Jessie Godderz, who had been in TNA and Big Brother and any number of different reality shows and stuff. Rick Boogs, part of the group. They haven't said, or at least I haven't found anything yet of their gimmick names. There's like one poster that's up of them where you can see like some of their things on there, and it seems like Godderz is named Steel. Most of the other names I can't really read. Like, some of the people that are that I don't know who they are. Somebody is Neon, somebody's Voltage, somebody's Mayhem. But
that's Wardlow, right?
Nah, Wardlow. He is in the graphic with a way that his name is like blocked, and so is Kamille, and so is Rick Boogs. They're just like positioned in a way where somebody else is covering up that section of them. I guess somebody is Eagle, but I don't recognize that guy either. There's only like a few that are like you can like really read right now. And it also looks a little bit like it's an AI image. I don't know for sure, but plenty of people use that for stupid things. By the way, WWE, if you're gonna make graphics for Evolve with AI, maybe double check that it's not a boxing thing, because your big announcement thing for Evolve. That one was using a boxing thing. I don't know for sure if there's like any other information about American Gladiator names, Steel Godderz. Maybe there could be something on there on that front. Kamille might be Hurricane, it looks like.
Hurricane for Kamille. Yeah, it's got Hurricane's name. Just looking at
what?
I'm just looking at others and just seeing that it just says on the Wikipedia page, just has a load of TBAs attached to it, other than the ones that you've kind of mentioned of having like Mayhem Eagle, and all of them are just people that are just not nobodies, but like not people that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, there's people from like sports things, and there's people from like physical trainers that are maybe their names or something like that. We went over them before, but grand scheme of things when it comes to this, you got some wrestling talent, and you got some people that you might be able to recognize. J-Rod is like a wrestler from the Indies, Jessica Rodden. So she's in there, but I don't know what her name is either. I can't seem to find that on that graphic either. But you never know when there's going to be more crossovers between people, and people that have been on shows like the Titan Games have been eventually in WWE. Ivy Nile was part of that. So, anybody like the J-Rod woman I just mentioned, if she's got this connection now with The Miz and with Wardlow and Kamille and all, who knows? Maybe she gets signed with one of those in the future. And it's tangentially related to those rosters in one way or another. It's the type of thing that's probably some crossover. So I'll be checking it out. I used to love American Gladiators back in the day. I'm sure by a few episodes in, it'll not be as interesting anymore. Just the way that it typically goes with these things for me, where eventually I'm just going to be like, all right, I'm a little bit tired of this. But a short stint worth of episodes that I can binge, maybe that'll be a little bit better for that. But if you are interested in us doing any other kind of like coverage for that or something, let me know, and maybe I'll watch an episode and do a fan announce table or something for it. As far as people signing with WWE, another thing that we had mentioned before as a possibility, but now it seems like it's a little bit more likely, of Marie Malenko signing with WWE, Dean Malenko's daughter. Don't know anything about her other than what she looks like and that she's Dean Malenko's daughter. And, if she is half the talent that her father was, that's going to be great, because he was awesome. And she's a very attractive woman, so that's another positive. And, I'm interested to see where that goes.
Body Slam is reporting that she has signed, but again, we'll just wait and see if she comes up part of this performance center recruits. But yeah, it's obviously good to have a background, or at least a generational tie into professional wrestling. I mean, it usually helps for a lot of people. Sometimes it's a hindrance more than a help. But as I say, we'll have to just wait and see if she's been trained by her father or has had any previous background prior to signing, and whether she takes it up pretty quickly, because they have usually people that come through the performance center that have that second generation lineage usually end up doing pretty well for themselves. Like obviously Charlotte Flair is probably the prime example of someone that went up to the top level. So yeah, we'll have to just wait and see how Marie Malenko goes, and obviously whatever name they give her, because she's obviously not going to keep the Malenko name, because they never do that.
Oh no, they'll give her some dumbass name. She'll end up being, Trixie McGee or something.
Especially due to the fact that So she apparently she's wrestled for like Noah and Marigold, so she has a background, which is good to see.
Oh.
So she has like she's been wrestling for a little while then. Um, I guess most likely thing about why she won't beat the Malenko name is obviously that the Malenko's employed by AEW, so that probably is like probably another reason why they absolutely won't give her full title.
And, I mean, there are so many different routes that they could go when it comes to that. They could end up doing my middle name is so-and-so and my mother's maiden name is blank, or, like they can, or, hey, I really like the name Christina, I don't know, Jones or something like that. And then Taz will be like, hey, I like Christina Jones. But something to keep an eye on. They're trying to recruit plenty of different people. We're getting this influx of people from NXT and everything, and Evolve is changing, and all the more reason to talk about another thing that switches when it comes to that. Jackson Drake has lost the WWE Evolve Men's Championship to Aaron Rourke on this most recent episode of Evolve. And the final evolution thing that had happened before, where they mentioned about like Kendall Gray retained the title and vacated it. They haven't announced what they're going to do with that yet. Next week, there's supposed to be some sort of an announcement regarding crowning a new champion. So I'm assuming that they'll either have like a tournament or it'll be like a 4-way or whatever it might be. But now that Aaron Rourke is the new champion, that's a simpler thing because they just move along. And who knows the next challenger? I'm assuming that the next person in line for the title is probably either Cam Hendricks or Harlem Lewis. And those are the two that are being set up the most. But to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't have anticipated that Aaron Rourke would have been the guy to beat Jackson Drake. Especially because going back, a few months ago, I was very like, okay, well, it's clearly going to be Sean Legacy. And then they move him over to NXT. And then it's like, well, it's not going to be Sean Legacy, that's for sure. And they're teasing Mike Cunningham is another person in there. So Evolve is not the top of the line, most interesting thing that happens in WWE in a particular week. But if you're into Evolve, and you might be curious what's happening on that front. And they're also going to be having people show up next week for new ID prospects. And Timothy Thatcher, the quote-unquote foreman of Evolve, was also saying that they were looking at signing new people from Europe. So I don't know where that factors into any of the newer people that have been announced. Because nobody that I'm aware of would be classified as like, we're bringing this person in from Europe. But there might be more announcements of different signings coming up too. And we still haven't gotten any confirmation about Evil or Takahashi or any others that are sort of lingering of where they're going to go. We still don't even know where the hell Royce Keys is going to end up popping up. He was on Main Event, apparently. But he's not going to be on Evolve. Let's put it that way. And, I think it's an interesting time right now, with them shuffling the deck a little bit with Evolve and NXT and LFG and so on and so forth. We'll talk about another NXT shakeup in a little bit. Aaron Rourke, I think, is now the second openly gay superstar to have won a title. Remember correctly?
This is the first person to hold a singles championship.
Singles, because Rosser with the tag titles, I think, was the first one. And that in and of itself, history being made on that front. Congrats to Aaron Rourke.
I guess because you clarify with like the men as well, because Sonya Deville's held a championship as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So
So if you go for the men's side of things, then it's Rosser and as Darren Young, obviously, and Aaron Rourke. So yeah, that's a good thing. That's a nice thing to see, because not that, like I say, there shouldn't be any issue regardless of it, but people are idiots, but it's nice to see that hopefully that they promote this the right way about that, not to make his character about the fact that he's gay, but just make it like just have him be a good representative for that community.
I mean, his character basically is, but they haven't steered away from that in any fashion. But Of course, there's going to be people that are going to be annoyed about that, and there's going to be people, I'm never going to watch Evolve because of that or whatever, and, fuck yourselves. But I don't anticipate Rourke is going to hold that championship for a particularly long time frame. I do think he's going to be a transitional champion, and I hope that doesn't come across as one of those scenarios where he's a transitional champion because of the fact that he's gay, because I highly doubt that that's what, if they were looking at it from that angle, number one, they wouldn't give him the championship to begin with if they were against that. And number two, they probably wouldn't even hire him. You know what I mean? So, not everybody has the super long title reign, and he might end up having a super long title reign for all we know too. But I look at the momentum of Cam Hendricks and Harlan Lewis, and I'm like, it's going to be hard to not give the belt to either one of those two guys within the next couple months. So, next week when they announce anything more about the Kendall Gray situation, we'll talk about that. We'll see what's happening with, if they announce any more about these European wrestlers or the ID people that they're bringing into the mix on Evolve right now. But the more people that they bring into Evolve, the more people that can go away from Evolve and go into NXT. And then the more people that go into NXT, the more people that can go onto the main roster. I am very firmly assuming, actually, let's just go ahead and skip to it. Can we bounce around? It's not a problem. I am very much assuming that we're getting at least 2 call-ups after WrestleMania. And there could be a third one too. I don't know. It sort of depends. But based off of the stuff that happened on NXT this week was Booker T Appreciation Night. Jessie Jane retained the NXT Women's Championship in the triple threat match over Sol Ruca and Zarya. And next week, Sol Ruca and Zarya are going to have like one of those face-to-face segments and stuff. So I'm again very much assuming that the triple threat is going to have led to Ruca versus Zarya for Stand and Deliver and some sort of gimmick match or whatever. Meanwhile, Jessie Jane is, she might face Lola Vice. She might face somebody else. I don't know. But Fallon Henley's annoyed because she lost the Women's Speed Championship to Wren Sinclair. And I think that that's a very good indicator that Jane's not holding this belt past Stand and Deliver. And then I think Ruca probably goes up to the main roster. Jane probably could go up to the main roster. And maybe now that Fallon Henley's not the Speed champion, maybe Fallon Henley too. I don't think Lainey Reed will. I can see them splitting up Fatal Influence and then, doing something like that. But I'm very much going, okay, that Speed title changing hands, I think that's leading in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a good potential that the case. It could just be just a general that the splitting up of Fatal Influence just because you have Henley lose the title, Jane gets annoyed about that, and so it starts to fall apart in between now and Stand and Deliver. So basically, Jessie Jane has no one or doesn't have the backing that she usually has going into, likely, it seems now, considering they've moved past the Zarya and Sol Ruca, probably Lola Vice.
Yeah, most likely Lola Vice's next challenger.
Yeah. So if they decide that she's going to be the champion off the back of that, then they'll go down that route. Yeah, I certainly see Sol Ruca is pretty much a lock to go up to the main roster. It's one of the things that annoys me about the whole split with Zarya is the fact that neither of them are going to win the NXT title, and they were already made tag team that you could have put up to the main roster and then done the splitting angle on the main roster where it could have had more impact. So it's kind of like, they decided to split them up for really no reason, because neither of them are going to fight for or winning the title, and they're just going to have a blow-off match at Stand and Deliver, which should be a good match, but still it's just like, okay, that's it. And you just broke up a very functional tag team that could have been, tag team champions on the main roster for what, a short feud with the champion and then one match at Stand and Deliver. It just doesn't feel worth it.
Yeah. I think that Zarya is going to stick around a little longer, so maybe she ends up being the person that can beat somebody like a Lola Vice, whoever beats Jessie Jane. But, I wouldn't necessarily bet on it 100%. Yeah.
And I think that she'd probably rather be making, even if it was just in the tag team division, not being pushed towards the main event, she'd probably rather be earning more money on the main roster rather than just being kept in NXT while her former tag team partner moves up to there instead. But I think that there's it very much depends, because they're in this window now where it feels like there are loads of people getting called up from NXT now. When for a good like year or two, it was like drips coming through, and people just been hanging around NXT for a long time. Now they're seemingly calling up, I don't say like half the roster, but half the established roster, or people like at the top end of the card. They're going to call them up at the same time. Jessie Jane, certainly, she's been in NXT for a very long time, so it feels about right that she would get called up now. Whether she comes with Fallon Henley or whether Fallon stays behind, because she's won both the mid-card titles, so and the tag titles. There's really no need for her to win the world title as well, but you never know if they decide to keep her around as more of a stable presence there.
Yeah, they could just look at that. It's like, well, if we split them up, why would we bring both up at the same time or something? And then maybe Fallon Henley gets a little bit more focus in NXT for a little longer and pops up in 2027 or something. But she's been there for quite a while too.
Yeah, or you could do. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have been there for quite a while, but it's a case of like if you bring Jessie Jane up, maybe Fallon Henley just assumes leadership of Fatal Influence, and they bring a third person into the group from Evolve or something. So
for a brief point, she was the leader. Yeah, they had more focus on Fallon Henley than they did on Jessie Jane, and there's plenty other people that they could put in there. Laney Reed, she was a replacement for Jasmine Nix, so somebody can come in and replace her. Maybe that's, for all we know, maybe that's Murray Malenko, but I highly doubt it. They got tons of people from Evolve and from LFG, and people that are hanging around in NXT with not necessarily nothing to do, but some people are kind of waiting in the wings a little bit. I highly doubt that it would be like a Kalani Jordan would do that. Anybody that's already established themselves, but there's bring up the roster right now. Just
I think it'd be a way to reintroduce Nikita Lyons to do it like that.
Yeah, Nikita Lyons is somebody who has been getting a little bit more attention lately. They've got somebody like, if you wanted to split her, I think she could work with it. I wouldn't anticipate this would be the case, but Izzy Dame could work as a part of that group if you wanted to take her out of the culling. And somebody like Thea Hale, technically, I guess, could get a repackaging, but I don't think she would necessarily be the case.
I think if he moved an Izzy Dame would have to take on a leadership role, which seems to cut away from Fallon Henley's being in the group still.
She does strike me though as I'm surprised Izzy Dame wasn't a part of that group, because she seems like she would have fit in that. I'd be surprised if Callie Armstrong was in there, or Xena Sterling. I don't think would really fit. Wendy Chu, of course, wouldn't. PJ Vasa wouldn't. Mason Holiday wouldn't. But Chantel Monroe, whenever she's back from her injury, she could potentially be in there. And any handful of other people that are somewhere in the mix. But we gotta wait and see if they split up anytime particularly soon too. So keep an eye out on that for anybody that's curious about titles changing and all that. Good for Wren Sinclair to finally win a championship. I like that. And the way that they're putting that speed title and the people that are competing for it and all very much seems like, I don't know why they haven't addressed that Heritage Cup, but it does seem like the speed championship is the lower tier underneath the North American title for the men's and women's division. And Wren Sinclair is a very perfect person to be that go-between of, they don't necessarily want to push her to the mid-card title yet. They certainly don't want to push her to the main title yet. And she's advanced way past the point of going down to Evolve. So you give her this little speed championship thing, and that can make a lot of momentum going forward. Meanwhile, Kendall Gray has already established herself more as the Evolve champion. So she's somebody that, if they turned around and they gave her the Women's North American Championship at any particular time, I wouldn't be all that surprised. But Blake Monroe's going after that next. She went after Tatum Paxley after she retained the title in a steel cage match over Izzy Dame in the main event. So Tatum Paxley versus Blake Monroe, not confirmed yet for Stand and Deliver, but between Stand and Deliver and Roadblock and the episodes that are happening on NXT, I very much anticipate that that's going to end up happening. And Blake Monroe probably wins that title back, even though she certainly doesn't need to, and she could be on the main roster right now, and all those discussions we've had before about that. Shawn Legacy's injured. For anybody else who wants to know anything more about the NXT side of things, I don't know how long he's going to be out, but he is going to be replaced in the tag team tournament with Elio LaFleur, who still has this whole thing with, they didn't decide whether Legacy or Eli Knight was going to face Elio LaFleur next. So now that Legacy is out, maybe Eli Knight just by default gets put in there. Then if him teaming with LaFleur can factor into that, sure, why not? But more on that next week when they face the Culling in their match. Birthright beat Hank and Tank, so they are in the next round of this number one contenders tournament. OTM and Dark State had a backstage fight for a couple seconds, so I'm anticipating some sort of a gimmick match between them and one of those two shows coming up. Jasper Troy turned babyface to help Booker T fight off Keanu Carver. Good segment there. William Regal and Fit Finlay back on TV again. And I like what they're doing here with this. They had Regal say to Robert Stone that he's been very impressed with his interim general manager decisions and stuff so far. So he's like, I'm going to try to talk to Shawn Michaels and see what we could do to make this role a little bit more permanent. And then later on, when Birthright decided to interrupt a thing with Robert Stone, Stone was talking about setting up an opponent for Miles Bourne for the Stand and Deliver match for the NXT North American Championship. And they were like, well, we know that you're going to do the right thing. So it seems like the story right now is going to be Birthright using some influence from William Regal to take over a little bit more of NXT. And I'm all for that. I like this idea.
Yeah, it does sound like, as Regal's history with NXT is like as established as anybody's. So it makes sense they're trying to lean into that, and with the Birthright stable, it just feels like I can't connect with Birthright until they change their names.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it doesn't seem like they're doing it since they didn't do any segment like that this week. No. This week seems like it would have been the time to pull the trigger on just officially having, okay, we're in the ring and we're going to address that, but they didn't. So we're stuck with Lexis King and Uriah Connors and Charlie Dempsey instead of, Charlie Regal or whatever, Bailey Regal, something. That sucks, but, I like Birthright so far, and I'm curious to see where they go and, the grand scheme of things for that. Ricky Saints and Ethan Page and Tony D'Angelo and Joe Hendry absolutely going to be a four-way at Stand and Deliver. They're just heading towards that direction and haven't announced it yet. And then, there's some little bits and pieces here and there of like Thea Hale interacting with Kalani Jordan and Jada Parker being seemingly moving over into that side of things. So they could all be somewhere hovering around that women's North American title match. And maybe that's going to be a multi-person match too. I don't know. But another thing to keep in mind, Sexy Red is apparently going to be at Stand and Deliver. So that might factor into, a hosting thing. Maybe it's a performance. I couldn't tell you much about her. She's popped up a couple times in NXT. So, they like her. It's a celebrity thing. I'm sure plenty of other people will really like her too. I don't know. Not my thing. But one thing to go back and talk about as far as TV stuff and whatever, Rey Reyes happened this past weekend. They recorded everything in one shot, and spoilers for the next 2 weeks and stuff are, week 2 is airing this Saturday, week 3 is airing the week after, but nothing really like, grand sweeping that is worth talking about other than El Grande Americano won the Rey Reyes sword, and he's going to get the next title shot and all. Dom retained over Vikingo, and it seems like they're setting up Vikingo against Penta for the Intercontinental Championship at some point. Now, that could be an interesting thing that maybe rolls into WrestleMania, but Penta had a promo where he was saying that he wants to be a fighting champion and he wants to defend the title both in like the traditional WWE, Monday Night Raw, pay-per-views, etc. aspect, but he also wants to defend the title at AAA. So I'm anticipating that we get Penta versus Vikingo somewhere on a AAA show in the next month. And given the whole setup that they've done on Monday Night Raw and the way that they're hovering around a bunch of other people, I don't know if they're going to maybe throw Vikingo into that for WrestleMania too. Because the way that they've been bouncing around different people, going back to Monday Night Raw and talk about a little bit of those things, El Grande Americano beat the original El Grande Americano. And there are still issues with Dominic Mysterio, who was not on the show. He is currently in concussion protocol because of the chair shot, I guess, to the head that Vikingo threw the chair right at his head. And, that's not good. So there's the connection point between Vikingo and Dom there, and then there's the El Grande Americano and Dom stuff, and then there's the Penta stuff and whatever, and then you throw in Javon Evans turning down Kofi Kingston's offer to join him after a thing with Dragon Lee, and Dragon Lee was fighting Penta on this episode, and he was supposed to be filling in because it was supposed to be something else, and there are basically like 7 people hovering around this Intercontinental Championship right now, and I don't know, ladder match? Something like that?
Yeah, I guess it depends on who they decide that they want to put into that match. And they are having... I mean, it's good to have like a active mid-card and not have like it be so obvious which route they're going to go down. But, they have history of doing these 7 and 8 man ladder matches for the Intercontinental title in the past, so it's not out of the question that they go down that route. I think it was the case, didn't they do like 2 years in a row, like 31 and 32? They did 2 7-man ladder matches in a row for the Intercontinental title, so they can go back to that well again after a while. Vikingo would be an interesting one if they decide to go down that route, because his I know it doesn't count much, but his kind of reputation among the more, like, I guess, classical wrestling fans, or more like, the more in-depth Smark type fans, has gone down very significantly over the last couple of years. I don't think it's necessarily to do with the AAA WWE thing, as more just like his general performance has started to get called into question a little bit. He hasn't really evolved from the kind of spot monkey allegations attached to him, and he's kind of just not become a more rounded wrestler, like, because a lot of wrestlers in the past have, like Will Ospreay used to have that attachment to him, and now he's become a more he obviously does still throw a lot of spots into his stuff, but he becomes a bit more of a complete wrestler. But Javon Evans looks like he's heading towards the route of being a more complete wrestler after having those original shouts gone against him, whereas Vikingo just seems to be the same guy, other than the fact that he's now a heel and teaming up with, and part of AAA's constant approach of having so many heel angles and run-ins and interference and all this stuff as well, which has just been part and parcel with them for long before they ever got into bed with WWE. But yeah, I'd say it depends on if they feel like Vikingo adds anything to the WrestleMania match, or whether they just want to have AAA's involvement in it in some formal fashion. I mean, with Penta being a champion, AAA has an involvement anyway because of his relationship with the promotion. But yeah, throwing Vikingo in it and saying, "Oh, this is from our partners in AAA, and go check out AAA every single week on this stuff." Just even for that reason, it might be worth just throwing him in a multi-man ladder match.
If they do go with a multi-man thing, I do think that that's probably like overall more beneficial than then distracting, because there's a certain amount of people that would be like, who the hell is Vikingo? Because they don't watch AAA. And I don't blame you for not watching AAA either. There's so much freaking wrestling every single week, and your priorities are most likely going to be Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Collision, NXT, whatever, and TNA, whatever it might be. But if you enjoy the flippy stuff, Vikingo is a lot of fun. And you could put Omos in there, and he could do some stuff with some people and be like a big man in a ladder match scenario as like an outside factor and all. I would like to see if they are going to go in a multi-man. I'd like to see Vikingo be a part of that, but it could also just be, on an episode of AAA coming up. Could be Penta versus Vikingo or something, but they should have some fun matches. And, Dom being in this concussion protocol thing, maybe that changes things up a little bit. And we know that Rey Mysterio seems to be screwing things up a little bit with his injury. It's like not his fault, but, Gunther against Rey Mysterio, I guess that was their plan, and they're just not going to do anything with Gunther else. That sucks. Way to capitalize on that momentum, right?
Yeah, I saw someone with the suggestion of if they'd have known this stuff more in advance, they could have done, which sounds a bit cheaty, but they could have done something where, with the AJ Styles retirement ceremony, they could have done a thing where, like, have Gunther interrupt that by talking about how this shouldn't be happening, like you should be gone because of the fact that I retired you, and just lead into that into not a match, but an unsanctioned street fight between Gunther and Alan Jones, as it were.
Yeah.
So, but it is just dumb that they can't find anything else for Gunther to do, and they seem to have just tied everything. I don't mind the idea of his character being defined by like retiring people at the moment, but that doesn't mean that every match and everything that he does needs to be completely attached to that. It just means that when the retirement match opportunity comes up, then it's Gunther that will do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's other veteran people that he could probably have a match with, or could just have a match with somebody and give them a really good match on WrestleMania. Like, now seemingly they're moving away from, based on what Raw happened, that it's going to be Brock versus Obafemi.
Yeah, that match has been confirmed. They put the graphics and stuff up, which is like, thankfully they're going in that direction and not, the LA Knight match or Rollins.
Well, the thing is that LA Knight now doesn't have a match, and LA Knight, like, I'm not saying like he's like an absolute lot that he should be on WrestleMania, but like, you've got two guys that probably are worthy of WrestleMania spots, and they have nothing to do. So
yeah, and there's like,
put them together.
We would assume that the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal is probably going to happen on the SmackDown prior. They've done that for the however many years, so it's just by the sheer nature of repeating the same things over and over again, it's probably going to happen. And you're going to need to put some people that are some bigger names in there, so it's not just Alpha Academy and Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro and the MFTs that they don't tend to wrestle, or anything along those lines. But somebody like a Gunther or an LA Knight or whatever, they should be on the actual card. And I did write up something where I was pitching, like, what do you do with Gunther at this point? WWE has boxed so much of this WrestleMania card into a corner, and some of it, not their fault. Admittedly, like, they got hit with some injuries that are very much 10 years ago, WrestleMania 32. It's coming back around again of like, let's do this match. Fuck, that person's injured. Well, then let's do this. Fuck, now that other person's injured. Well, now let's do this. Fuck, that person's injured. One report was saying that, I don't understand how this is the case, but one thing was saying like Bronson Reed's injury sealed the deal that they're doing Cody versus Orton. I don't know where that would have factored in, but sure. But I'm like, if you don't have anybody else for Gunther to face at WrestleMania, I would not be pitching, let's just do something with LA Knight. But I could see, it's not ideal. Let me put it out there before anybody criticizes this. Maybe give Gunther the Andre. And maybe have him be like, I've got this trophy that I can, like, I can't retire Andre because he's been dead for years, but I can win the trophy and make this my own and kind of be like, sully that name a little bit or something. Maybe give him that. And, it's better than him just disappearing until the beginning of May or something, I'd rather that than Gunther just sits out WrestleMania entirely.
Oh yeah, that is obviously preferable to him just being left at home. I don't know. Well, I don't know whether he'd prefer it or not. I think I guess being part of a Battle Royal is just like it's pretty easy work anyway. But yeah, that's like it just feels more of like an overall indictment that you just don't have anything set up for the guy that entered last year's WrestleMania as the world champion.
Yeah, and it's retired Goldberg and John Cena and AJ Styles in between
in the last year. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just like, well, if we can't have him have a random ass match with Rey Mysterio, then we got nothing else in mind. Really?
Because that just also leads to contest though. Surely the only reason that he'd be having a match with Rey Mysterio is that he was going to retire Rey Mysterio. So does that mean that Rey Mysterio's injury has just delayed his retirement?
Right, and that's like, I don't know. I can't picture that necessarily being the direction that they would have gone, that he would have just retired, because stranger things have happened, sure, but it's like it seems like you would want to retire against Dom, and there wasn't any real momentum about like Rey with this feud with that, because Rey and Dom were looking like they were going to feud for the Mega Championship, and it could have been a one-off. It could have been just Dom retains over Rey, and then Rey moves on and does something else, and Dom starts feuding with El Grande Americano or whatever it might be. But to me, that seems like I wouldn't picture that Rey would be retiring at Mania. And then that becomes, is it just a match? And if it is just a match, that's the best you could do with Gunther? Really? No backup plans either. So I'd like to see him win the Andre. If not, I mean, maybe they can call on some kind of a legend to come out and do some sort of impromptu retirement. I don't know who, because it'd have to be somebody who's not otherwise incapacitated and incapable of retiring. And it would have to be somebody that can come in and be a big enough name, because let's be honest, like there's plenty of people out there that probably could wrestle another match, but who would really care if they were going to retire against Gunther?
Dude, let's bring the Boogeyman back.
But like, yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like if you hired me on WWE Creative today and you were like, what ideas do you have for the rest of the WrestleMania card? I'd be like, okay, well, there's plenty of things we got to talk about. But if we're talking about the Gunther thing, I'd be like, can we call Ken Shamrock? Can we call Rob Van Dam? Or, I don't know, like almost anybody, and be like,
Santana Umbrella.
Yeah, like, just anybody who is a name that would get a pop and most likely is done wrestling, but maybe could step back in the ring one more time. Diamond Dallas Page, even. We're just bringing him up earlier. Like, maybe DDP can wrestle another match. I don't know. And then maybe, since you don't have that open challenge thing anymore with Brock Lesnar, maybe Gunther is like, I'm going to put out an open challenge. Somebody at WrestleMania, I would like a legend to put their career on the line and, stop me from fucking all you people over. And then, hey, the big surprise is it's, like I mentioned, like Ken Shamrock or something like that. And it's like that person comes out and they lose and they retire, and Gunther walks out of WrestleMania being like, and now I retired a fourth person. You could do that. And if not, I'd toss out the Andre thing. But, right now, this WrestleMania card looks like it's just pick and choose elements. They go away. Now we pick another thing in there. And some matches are looking pretty good. I love the idea of Obafemi beating Brock Lesnar, so I hope that happens. And I'll fully admit, again, week after week, Punk and Roman is not the match that I would have booked. But goddamn it, their promos are fucking fun. They had another good one this week. So it's like, all right, well, I can't turn my nose up to that.
It's like they're making the animals to work, and as Punk has been the best character on WWE TV this year so far. So like it makes sense that he's like, well, he would make this work anyway because like him and Roman do have either history or do have enough background to go into it. It does it is starting to feel a little bit like Punk is getting the better of this now.
Yeah,
in terms of the promo side of things. Like, I'm not saying it's as the same as the Cena and Roman original feud where Cena was just eating him alive in promos, but it does feel like Punk is getting the edge over this now.
And the "you're old" line being the thing that sends Punk over the edge seemingly would have been more a dig at Larry, and it would have been a reference to the whole Sika, I'm going to bury you next to your father. Maybe Roman would have said, if anybody's going to get buried, it's going to be you, and it's going to be next to your dog or something. And I guess they decided not to go with that for whatever reason. Maybe Punk shot it down. Maybe they just decided to not do that or whatever. I think that would have been a good line. That would have riled people up. So I'm disappointed that they didn't. But,
I do sometimes get convicted, like, I think people are a bit too sensitive when it comes to this sort of stuff, when it's supposed to be like character driven.
Right.
Like, Roman does not hate CM Punk. Well, I don't know like what their personal situation is, but I don't think he like absolutely detests CM Punk's guts to the point where it's like he's actually being serious about the fact that he wants like him to he wants to bury him next to his dog or anything like that. In the same way that I don't think Punk wants to do that stuff with like Sika either. But you just you say it because, and Punk is like always like presents himself as one of those most old school guys where like you just say I'm only interested in making money and I want to just build up the best feud and story possible so we can make the most money possible. So if I don't know the situation because obviously I didn't watch the promo, I saw bits and pieces of it, but like if he has shot down any ideas or if anybody shoots down those sort of ideas, I think it's a little bit, I know we always talk about in the sometimes it does get into a little bit of poor taste, like the one that a long time ago of like Paige bringing up Charlotte Flair's like dead brother.
Yeah,
but it's like if all sides are okay with it, then I think it's kind of fine. But it's just what the reaction is. I think it depends on the intensity of the feud as well. Like this one has built up a lot of intensity very quickly, which is good, and so you can get away with saying this sort of stuff. Whereas, like the Paige and Charlotte one, it just felt like that just came out of nowhere and was just it was used artificially to add heat to a feud which had no heat.
Worst example of that, I think, even more so, was the Candice LeRae bringing up Maxine Dupree's brother.
Oh yeah, because that was just like in a nothing feud coming out of absolutely nowhere, just in the middle of a match saying all of that stuff, and it's like it's like it's always about context. Like, and if Punk has already like they've already pushed it very far, like basically talked about how much they hate each other and have said some awful things to each other in promos, and then Punk says that thing, then essentially the gloves are off at that point, and you should be able to just say whatever you want to say, even if it's in poor taste. Like the guy's just said that he wants to bury you next to your father. Like, yeah, then essentially you can say whatever you want at that point. I feel like, as long as obviously you'd like within certain points, but about their character anyway, you could pretty much say whatever you feel like it. So yeah, I think the Larry thing would have been good, but if Punk is not comfortable doing it, again, it's his prerogative, and if they've agreed to it, then that's fine. But I just feel like it's a weird hill to die on. It's a weird thing to go like, oh, no, you can't talk about my dog, even if you're a character and I'm a character, and it's not you actually talking to me; it's your character talking to my character. I won't have that brought up. It's like,
yeah, I do think that there's a certain level of taste of maybe you don't bring up Eddie's dead immediately afterward, but if it's characters,
or say that he's in hell. Yeah, say that he's in hell. That's probably a bit too much for the stretch.
Right. Yeah. Oh, this is a random aside, but I thought that this was funny. Now that I'm just looking through like the Raw breakdown of things, I've been seeing people posting clips of the 2K I Quit audio voice acting works, and God, it's awful. Like Liv Morgan being like, "Oh no, I quit. That's it. And stuff.
Well, then things like R-Truth says some things in it, doesn't he? Whereas, like, in these I Quit matches, he says things like, my childhood hero said never give up, so I'm not going to either. That kind of
Yeah, like
thing.
no emphasis at all on.
But the lines are so poorly recorded. Like, they're not, like, in the... Like, it's just such a... Cause it's just in the middle of a match, they're just going to be saying thing in the line with the... Like, it's very poorly done. I think they should just, not do that. And just, it felt like, oh, we're doing this to add an element of realism to it, but it almost like
takes it out.
it takes you out of it. Yeah. So
Rhea's the only one that seems like she was kind of selling it as maybe somebody's got me in a submission, so I could be like, no, like whatever, instead of just no, I don't quit. No, I'm still in the match. Yeah, it's a random aside thing. I just saw Liv Morgan's name, so it reminded me of that. Other things on Raw to talk about that we haven't touched on yet. Becky Lynch back and going after AJ Lee, not at all surprised. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria had a backstage thing with the Kabuki Warriors talking about going for the women's tag titles. And tonight on SmackDown, the women's tag titles are going to be on the line. Irresistible Forces are going up against Bell Twins. Not a chance that ends in anything other than multiple people coming out and having a brawl segment, because Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair had their match last week. Bella Twins got involved in that, so fully expecting Flair and Bliss are going to be getting involved as well, and then we'll probably get Kabuki Warriors and Bayley and Lyra also in there. 5-way at Mania, most likely. Men's tag titles are going to be on the line tonight, too. MFT's up against Damian Priest and R-Truth. Maybe those belts change hands? I don't know.
Depends on their plans are. Well, if they're all going to be involved at WrestleMania at all, like, because it depends on how many matches they decide to put on there and if the tag titles is worth enough of it. But
I don't think that'll be at Mania. Yeah.
Yeah. But they are just continuing with, like, the MFTs are still doing stuff with the White family, or the White Six, should I say. And so, yeah, they could go with some sort of route of doing, like, a multi-man tag thing. But then again, they have already done, like, multi-man tags with the MFTs versus the White Six. So it's not like it'd be very, like, original to go down that route again.
I could see the Wyatts costing the MFTs the tag titles tonight, and then having something. I mean, we're not that far off from WrestleMania. That's the thing. Like, it feels like we still have a long way to go because we have about a month, but there really are only a few more episodes, and somewhere down the line they got to do that thing with the lantern. So whether that's on the SmackDown prior to Mania, or it's on a SmackDown prior to the SmackDown prior to Mania or something, I don't think that's going to take place at Mania. Yeah. And, Damian Priest and R-Truth winning the tag titles right now could be some of their direction. I don't know who the hell they face, but,
I mean, surely this whole R-Truth Damian Priest tag team is just a vehicle to eventually turn Damian heel. Right? Because, like, they get either they win the tag titles and they lose him and he gets frustrated, or they lose here and he gets frustrated and he beats up R-Truth. And because, like, he's got very little direction right now, and he has had very little direction pretty much since joining SmackDown. Like, just got caught in a death feud with Aleister Black for the longest time. But then again, there's a lot of people in SmackDown that seem to be turning heel, because, like, Sammy seems to be turning heel, and Orton's turned heel, and so, like, maybe they just have to keep Damian Priest, bland upper mid-card babyface, because there's no other option.
Could be. I wouldn't be opposed to him turning heel. And there were those rumors that he could have something with Royce Keys, and we don't know if Royce Keys is supposed to be babyface or heel, because the only thing that they've shown with him so far has been talking to Stephanie, and in a pretty babyface kind of capacity. So, if they go Priest heel, Keys babyface, maybe they do something with that. But I could see a turn happening. Yeah, that might be the case. Speaking of turns, last week Randy Orton turned on Cody Rhodes, and that was, something that we all could have seen coming from a mile away. It's the right call. He should be a heel in this feud, not Cody being the heel. I don't know if they really needed to pull the trigger right now. I think that they could have waited a little bit, but got people talking.
Well, I mean, let's address the elephant in the room. He's not the heel, or he won't be treated as the heel.
He'll still get cheered for sure.
Well, he'll get cheered well far over Cody. Like that was already the case on that segment. Like he was cheered over Cody, and Cody was booed. Like that's like the crowd is kind of I would say like everyone, because there's always a like incentive to try and look at what the crowd in the ring is saying and just say that that's what all fans are feeling like, which isn't necessarily the case. But it does feel like, at least from a in-person crowd perspective, Cody is entering the John Cena don't care if you cheer me or boo me phase of being like a top champion.
They're gonna have to turn that around a little bit too. And tonight,
I don't think they will. I think it's impossible until Cody. Well, it depends, because like Cody, it only ever depends on if Cody is willing to turn heel, and he's shown both through his time in AEW and now with WWE that he doesn't want to be a heel.
At least so far, yeah, doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. Speaking of something that's not going to happen anytime soon, Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre are supposed to have some kind of a fight tonight. That's not going to be a match. Just for anybody that's curious, that's not going to be a match. Not a chance. So they'll wait. They'll do a fight. They'll, get booked for WrestleMania. That's when you'll see them actually fight. But
it's also the thing of like, McIntyre like feigned quitting.
Yeah.
last week, and then just comes back immediately to attack Jacob Fatu, and it's like, okay. Like, I think they play into that quite a lot with Drew McIntyre, because there's always been like rumors surrounding him about his relationship with WWE, and we obviously know that he signed a new contract a while ago, so he's not actually going to be quitting. But they seem to go with the well with him quite a lot about, is he actually leaving WWE at some point, or is he going away for a while? They seem to do that with him basically more than anybody else.
Yeah, they did at least one quit angle last year, I think it was, or the year before. And then they've done, the fake suspensions and stuff. That seems like a regular go-to thing with him. We got some other elements on Raw. Go back and double check about those things that I forgot to mention. Logan Paul and Austin Theory were told by Paul Heyman that since they have no leverage right now, they need to win gold, and then they need to go after the tag title. So they're having a match next week. I fully expect a tag title match to happen at WrestleMania. So something's got to mess that up a little bit and lead to that more so happening on the grandest stage of them all instead. Rollins, of course, still hovering around, but since Brock Lesnar is going against Obafemi, kind of feels like they're at least a little bit hopeful that Braun Breaker would be back.
Well, yeah, it's either one or two things. It's either they think that Braun Breaker might be back to compete against Rollins, or they don't think Rollins is physically ready to compete at WrestleMania. And they're just bringing him back now to kind of mess things up and just, be on TV and be a presence, but not actually with the view of having him wrestle WrestleMania.
And then, of course, all those masked people are, they're doing the in-ring stuff without Rollins. So, whether that's that he's not able to do any of that stuff at all and he's not medically cleared for real, or that they're just holding back a little bit for him right now and waiting until they can actually make sure that Braun Breaker or whatever else that they want to do is able to do that, then
it would be quite interesting, because it'd just be throwing, if Braun Breaker is back, he'd be just throwing two people that have just recently come back from injury into a match at WrestleMania. It should be fine, because they wouldn't throw anybody in if they had serious doubts about their ability to compete, but it does throw a little bit of uncertainty around it about two guys that have just very recently come back from injury being in a kind of a marquee type match at WrestleMania.
I could see them being yeah, but you know what? Mania matters more, and if they get injured, it's still going to be worth it. It kind of depends.
Depends on the seriousness if they were to get injured, which obviously nobody would hope that they would. So,
yeah. I don't think there was anything else worth talking about from Raw that we didn't already touch upon. Natty beat Maxine. Maxine and Austin Theory were seen talking back to each other backstage. So I don't know what's happening there. I can't imagine Maxine Dupree becomes a member of the Vision, but it could be. Yeah, I don't know. The Javon stuff, talked about that. Danhausen cursed Kofi Kingston, but Kofi Kingston pushed Grayson Waller in the path, so he got pointed at instead. And I'm finding myself more and more being like, God damn it, I'm enjoying this Danhausen stuff. I don't like when I have to eat crow, but I'm fucking enjoying it. And I hate being wrong. But I'm willing to admit it, you know what I mean? He's having some fun. People are liking it, so yeah, you know. Speaking of admitting when you're wrong, let's talk about Ricochet. Ricochet has been in some hot water after he said to somebody, "I'm glad that you have MS." And then eventually realized, yeah, it's overstepping. And maybe me trying to get heat by saying that I'm happy somebody has multiple sclerosis. It's probably a little too far. And, naturally people are upset about that, as they should be. And he's posted his one apology. He was tweeting out like retweets about people defending it beforehand too. So, everybody says things that they regret. There are plenty things in my past. There's things on old episodes of the podcast that are like, they don't age well, or it's like, well, maybe I worded that poorly, or maybe it's just a piss poor opinion about things. Everybody has glass walls that if they start throwing stones, they're going to start breaking their own shit too. To an extent, I always put that out there and go like, yeah, you know what? People should be allowed to apologize and learn that they overstepped, and, not crucify them. And now he's never going to be able to work for any company ever again, and all these other kind of things like that. But maybe don't do that, just from the outsider's perspective of that. Yeah. Learn from this. Don't fucking do that.
Yeah, I know he leads into like the heel troll online, and as he crossed the line with that one. I will say that there wasn't really a huge amount of backlash until he apologized, and then people decided that as soon as he apologized, that obviously they found out about it and why he was apologizing, and so and then they jumped on it even more, and then talked about he's gonna lose his job, and there's all this talk about how he's in huge hot water backstage, and he's just lost the title anyway, but that was before it happened regardless. So yeah, that's he probably just will get called off for a little while, but I don't think this is going to cost him his career by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, it's one of those things that's bad, and he definitely shouldn't be doing it. But then again, I've seen multiple times MJF tweet about how someone should kill himself in the replies, and he never gets into hot water because he's MJF, and that's part of just who he is. But that's it shouldn't be one rule for one guy and another for another. So if MJF has been saying that sort of stuff, I think he even said I saw a tweet of his a couple of weeks ago where he talked about somebody sent a reply to someone saying that they should die or something along those lines, and nobody really bat an eyelid beyond that, because it's just it's just what he does. So yeah, so he'll be off TV probably for a week or two. It will all blow over in the news cycle within a couple of weeks, and then we can just move on. Yeah.
I don't know why people are all upset at Sean Ross Sapp over it. I haven't really followed that as much, but
it's for anything that Rob said about it was just a case that they didn't report about it. They didn't report about Ricochet saying that stuff, and so he got called out as just being an AEW shill. Why aren't you talking about this? If the WWE guys had said this sort of stuff, then you'd be all over it. But I think it's just a case of, I'd say that was just part of the thing. It's just I don't think anybody made a real news story about this until after Ricochet apologized.
Crazy things happen on that front all the time, and eventually you have to just, some things it's not worth being upset over, and some things are, you can be upset over it and then you can move on. And other things are like, well, then why are you attacking other people? And why are you mad at somebody for not covering it the same as you would be mad at the person that's saying it? And, in a world where there are a million things to be upset about, and there are reasons to take, throw a Molotov cocktail into something or whatever, and really actually revolt over things. Something like being upset that it doesn't get as much coverage as some other things is not something to be like, that's the big factor, more so even than the comment itself. Everybody needs to take a chill pill when it comes to that. But yeah, Ricochet, learn from that a little bit. Maybe make a donation to like an MS fund of some kind, and don't do it again. Maybe tone down the trolling stuff a little bit too. It doesn't seem like that's necessarily healthy. I say that as the type of person who's like angry all the time now, and it takes a toll on your body. Speaking of taking a toll on your body, Toni Storm is injured. So we don't know how long she's going to be out, but she got replaced in the no holds barred match with Mina Shirakawa against Marina Shafir. Very surprised that Mina Shirakawa won that. That was not something I anticipated.
Yeah, my assumption would be that they had the Storm was going to win regardless, and so they decided to go down just to keep Shirakawa get the victory in her place. I say this Toni Storm news is just like, it's both really bad, but then also, there's always the hint of opportunity or a silver lining when somebody of her magnitude goes down with a serious injury, which reports suggesting she's going to be out for the rest of the year. So it's so I don't know how bad it could have necessarily been, or how recently she developed an issue, because she wrestled Revolution. She seemed to be totally fine at the end of Revolution, but then now it's like she was taken out, and they were promoting the match up until the day of the match. So clearly this came out of the blue and not to be expected. So yeah, we'll have to find out, or hopefully find out, or if they want us to find out, again, it's totally down to them. But if we do find out, see what the issue is that would keep her out for an entire year. Feels like major in terms of either a serious injury or a serious life event or something of that ilk. But as I say, she is the person that they built the women's division around for the last several years. And so her going down is obviously a blow from that perspective, because she is a star and she does have a lot of star power attached to her. But it means that now there's people that need to fill that gap. And so you have to start building people up to be in the right place to do that. So we'll see what route they decide to take, or who they feel like can fill her boots for the time being. It also is interesting because obviously Revolution, Ronda Rousey appeared and seemed to be calling out Toni Storm. And now if Toni Storm's not going to be here to wrestle for the next, at least until next year, then what does that mean for Rousey and her relationship with AEW? Do they have to find someone else to do? Is that the reason why they gave Mina Shirakawa the victory? Because they're going to go with Shirakawa as the first stopgap for her? Or are they just using her loss, Shafir's loss, to help lead into Rousey being a motivating factor for her, and they're going to move into the tag division instead? And again, we don't even know what, because Rousey, at least by reports, she's not under contract with AEW. She's just going to be coming in for that, and will probably be, you'd imagine, make sporadic appearances in the build up to her fight with Gina Carano on the Netflix thing, and then see where it goes from there. Like a lot of, I would say, it wasn't on the Revolution post show, so I haven't had a chance to comment on it. But like many people, I totally understand why a lot of people are upset about this move, because she is a very polarizing figure, to say the least, and I don't think that she should ever be able to forget the things that she said about stuff like Sandy Hook and other sort of comments that she's made in the past, which are not positive in the slightest. And her second run with WWE, if you want to class it that, because technically she was under contract the whole time, but when she took a break and then came back, was awful. Very, very bad. So I'd say I'm not expecting great things, but it's one of those issues like it's not right, it's not fair, but certain people are a draw and certain people aren't, and if you have the opportunity to bring a draw into your promotion, then you 9 times out of 10 are going to take it. And that's what they've decided to do with Ronda Rousey. And if you argue that she's not a draw, well, the purchasing figures for her versus Carano gives a different picture because it's selling pretty well.
Is it?
So,
I mean, that's not also that surprising, given like they're it's Ronda Rousey. So
yeah, well, yeah, Rousey and Carano are both well-known fighters that never fought. I don't think they ever fought with each other before because I think they were in different promotions. Because I think Carano's more for was it more like Bellator types, and Rousey was UFC. And the fact that they're both very controversial figures as well, like Carano in particular, in more recent years. So,
they're both attractive women, and I mean, there's that whole easy thing for that, like
and they haven't fought for years and years and years. So there's that novelty factor in the same way of like having Mike Tyson come out of retirement to fight Jake Paul and all that shit. So, but say you've got to strike with the iron heart, and if they are getting some buzz around them now, then it makes sense for AEW to bring them in. If like Rousey's never gonna associate with WWE ever again, you got Marina Shafir there, who's an easy tie-in for Rousey to come in. So yeah, as like bad news about Toni Storm because I've always been a huge fan of hers, and I hope that this isn't this setback isn't as bad as we fear it might be. But as I say, we'll have to find out over time what the actual cause of this absence will be. Because like I don't want to throw speculation out there, but like could be pregnancy type thing said as well. Which
I didn't think about that. I forgot about that as a possibility.
Yeah, so you never know. Like you would have thought if it was a pregnancy thing, they might have announced it, but then again, like they might want to keep it private or anything, or whatever reason for her absence, they might want to keep private, and if so, then we'll respect it. But
speaking of that,
it's not.
There's a thing that Rob just sent us not that long ago in our group chat. Rob, of course, MIA right now for this episode, but it seems like Naomi might have given birth, and the baby is okay. So if that's the case, awesome. Congrats to that couple.
Congrats to them. That's good for Naomi. So like she'll be on her way back probably sometime in the next like 6 months to a year, depending on how long they decide she wants to spend with the baby. So yeah, it's good that good for them. And I don't really know much for that about it. Just congratulations to the couple.
And then we've got the other little things that happen here and there from Dynamite to talk about. Well, Ospreay beats Blake Christian, cuts promo afterward, still going after Moxley and having issues with him and Wheeler Yuta and Pac. So, Continental title somewhere down the line, probably Dynasty, I'm assuming.
I think there's a good chance that match is on Dynasty, but it depends on how quickly they want to get to it, because they probably want to have Ospreay wrestle some matches to get himself feel back into it. He brawled with Pac after the match. He obviously went after Moxley and Yuta, but then Pac was the one that he put most of his attention towards, so maybe he has a match with Pac on a Dynamite or Collision coming up soon, and then that leads to the Moxley match. But we'll have to see. It's the odd dynamics of Moxley now as a character, where he's obviously gone from being the top heel in the company with Death Riders, and now is was more of a respectful babyface coming out of the World's End and winning the Continental Championship, and with Takeshita having like a respectful match at Revolution, retaining the title, shaking his hand afterwards, and then Ospreay comes back and immediately targets him, which makes total logical sense because the Death Riders were the people that took Ospreay out in the first place. So it's right that he would target Moxley, but it's now a bit odd because Moxley's become a bit more of a tweener for Ospreay to go after. So yeah, we'll see what route they decide to take with it. But in this sort of dynamic, Moxley's the clear heel to Ospreay's babyface.
Death Riders beat Bang Bang Gangs, Juice Robinson and Ace Austin. There was that coffin match, Darby Allin and Gabe Kidd. That took a long time to get to a point where I thought it was decent. I hated the beginning of that. I thought that was really hokey.
I don't think it needed to do the like the cinematic stuff at the start of it.
Yeah,
And,
that was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, I was like, I'll just very late. I think this is probably the worst episode of Dynamite they've done this year.
It wasn't a good one. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah, and I don't think they've had a bad Dynamite so far this year. And this one was just not very good at all.
It was awkward in a lot of other spots too. Like the transition to start the coffin match was very weird, and then like the ending was weird too. The Young Bucks and Jack Perry beat Kazuchika Okada and RBG Vice, and then have a promo where they're talking about how they're so upset that they lost at Revolution, but that they're actually not upset. They're actually really super pumped up and happy. And then Cope and Cage come out and they're like, we're going for the titles. And then FTR comes out and immediately gets beaten up. And then, yeah, that was like kind of an awkward ending. There was like the MJF promo where he was trying to be Joker a little bit and talking about how he's got 20 more years left to build his legacy. And then there wasn't any follow up with Hangman. If anything, that's the guy that you really want to follow up with.
So reports are suggesting that like Hangman's taking some time away from AEW. So I don't think we'll see him on the show for a little while anyway. Ending it on a promo, that's very non-AEW way of ending a show. Unless it's like a big segment attached to it. It's certainly not a promo after a match. And ending that way. I think I can understand why people were kind of like would ask questions about Cage and Cope taking on FTR at Dynasty because they've just come back and they've not wrestled any matches, but I guess you can make the argument that the last match they did have, they beat FTR. So, in which case, I guess it makes sense then that they can justify fighting them for the titles. The only thing the only women's match was the Shirakawa and Shafir thing. There wasn't really much follow up with any of the other women's matches that took place on the Revolution, so nothing to do with like the new tag champions or anything of that ilk. Swerve cut a promo. I guess that's probably the bigger thing, is like Swerve doing the promo and challenging Omega to put his essentially
the EVP status. It's number one contender versus EVP.
Yeah, so Swerve says that he's been named the number one contender for the world title, and so if Omega beats him, then he wins that, and if he doesn't, then he wins the EVP status. I'm done with the EVP stuff. Like AEW was much better when like there wasn't an authority figure at all on screen. Like we just knew that Tony Khan ran the show and he did things behind the scenes. Like the whole EVP stuff it was great to lead into a match, but that was just because it was great to see the Young Bucks versus Swerve and Ospreay. I didn't really care about the EVP stuff. Like the whole EVP angle was just a bad thing overall.
Yeah. Not my favorite thing either. So I don't know if they're gonna really. I can't picture it being like, let's give Swerve Strickland an EVP thing and have that be the real story. You know?
Yeah, I just don't want like any guy on the show having power to make matches and do that stuff. Like I just want that's just Tony Khan stuff, and he just does it in the background. He's not a on-screen character for the most part. Like he appears every now and again, but he's not a main fixture on-screen presence. Matches just happen that he's booked, and then so I think Kenny Omega will win that match. Like,
they had like Speedball
challenge MJF,
Speedball beat Mark Davis to just kind of roll out of that feud a little bit. And Andrade is going to be taking money from... Well, Andrade's taking money from Don Callis, who's getting the money from MJF so that Andrade can take care of Darby Allin. Ahead of MJF.
In his... Because Darby Allin cut the promo at the end of the coffee match saying that he's going after the world title.
Yeah. Not something I'm particularly super duper into right now, to be honest, but you got to move on to something. So,
but yeah, the stuff that he's been doing with the dogs, I'd say it's good to bring the dogs in with somebody that has established, but he's lost a lot of momentum from beating Moxley.
Yeah,
like,
a lot.
That should have led straight into like world championship contention, or at least like top title contention. But he's just been doing mid-card stuff in the meantime, and so it's lost a lot of momentum, so it doesn't feel as bigger deal that he's going after the world title now. Even though him and MJF have obviously a lot of history, they have a lot of good matches with each other. So the match itself should be good, but I don't see Darby Allin as a serious contender for the title.
Yeah, he ain't winning that belt.
Yeah. Also, like, one of the big issues with this show in general, beyond just like a lot of the even matches or things just not being like for me, crowd was one of the worst crowds I've ever seen for an AEW show. Like, they were making no noise. Like, as soon as Ospreay comes out, this is Ospreay's first match back in like nearly a year since his injury, and the crowd is like pretty dead from the start of it. I like go, oh fuck, this is gonna be a long night. Like, I'd almost it got me to the point of thinking, maybe the COVID era wasn't that bad. Like, listening to, because it's even worse when there is a crowd and they're making no noise.
There's not an excuse anymore. Yeah.
So, but yeah, as I say, it's a rare off night for the Dynamite side of things. I'm sure they'll bounce back next week, but yeah, it wasn't a great follow up from Revolution. And
I only have one more thing that I got down on my hot tags list, which is that there's now reports that when WWE was up for sale in 2023, that Tony Khan did put in some effort to try to buy the company. And that's not at all surprising, because why wouldn't he at least pitch something? He would have offered, I think, if I remember off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me anymore. I think it was something like $6 billion or something, which sounds like, you know, I mean, $1 billion is like, I mean, let's put it this way. I would be happy at seeing an extra $20 bill in my wallet. You know, like, I don't think that the average person has any conceivable idea of $1 billion, let alone 20, 30, 400, whatever. But it's a weird thing to think of, like, you know, that for all we know, some things change a little bit, and Tony Khan could have been running WWE and AEW and ROH and NXT, and, you know, this would have been pre-AAA deal and pre-TNA deal, but, you know, who knows all the different things that would have came about from this.
Again, this is like some very good reporting work by Post Wrestling and Brandon Thurston. That's always like very reliable and is a good source for this sort of reports. So AEW was, or Tony Khan was like built under like Base 10 was the conglomeration that was looking to sign them. Base 10 Inc. is like, Tony Khan is the sole officer of it, and it's like, I think it's the same group that's like owns the obviously owns AEW and owns the Jacksonville Jaguars and all that stuff. But so their bid was $6.9 billion, but it was the lowest of the 4 final main bids. KKR bid somewhere between $8 billion and $8.7 billion. Liberty Media bid between $8.5 billion and $8.9 billion, and Endeavor, which was obviously the eventual ones that merged with it, bid $8.5 billion for it. So it said certain people, Embassy, Universal, Disney, Amazon, Netflix, and the Saudi Arabian government did not place a bid for WWE when they were sold. So that's good to know as well.
No bid at all?
No.
Ah. That's interesting.
No, those were the 4 like final ones that actually made a serious bid for the company. So yeah, it is interesting that it's like in an alternate universe. As I would say, like, in an alternate universe, I think there was very little chance, especially if that was the most they were willing to offer. Then obviously they had zero chance of owning WWE because the other 3 offered significantly more money. But it is interesting to think of like Tony Khan becoming, because again that leads into the issue that I've always said, which is obviously I'm very happy with AEW's distance and for the most part really enjoy AEW, but I don't want another monopoly of pro wrestling in any essence whatsoever, even if it's someone that I feel like books wrestling the way that I want to and a way that I enjoy. Like, you need to have variety, you need to have different options, you need to have different perspectives on professional wrestling. Like, if Tony Khan owned WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, and then by proxy NXT, AAA, if they decide to be in a relationship, and in a relationship with CMLL, in a relationship with New Japan, in a relationship with Stardom, like have these fingers everywhere. And it's like, well, now it's just, it's like Vince McMahon, but maybe with better wrestling. But it gets to the point of like, well, then when the better wrestling starts to turn a little bit, then you just got one guy in control of everything again, and it's just where's the actual next person going to come from that's going to challenge it, and do we have to start another promotion from the ground up all over again like AEW was?
That's where what's his face? Freddie Prinze Jr. is like, hey,
yeah, it's I'm in, guys. Like, got competition again, but I think that I'd say I'm glad that he didn't buy WWE. Not for necessarily because I don't like WWE, but it's more of a case of I just don't want the same people. No, I don't want one person owning everything in professional wrestling. It needs to be diversified. In an ideal world, I want like 3 or 4 big promotions to be competing and pushing each other to be doing better. But at the moment, we just have the 2. And seemingly both of them are just interested in consolidating their position and putting any potential challengers either part of their actual company outright, like Ring of Honor is owned by Tony Khan, AAA is owned by WWE or Endeavor, or however you want to look at it. And or they forming relationships with TNA and Noah on the WWE side, and New Japan and Stardom and CMLL on the AEW side. So yeah, it does feel like both those sides are like the center of the wrestling universe, and so we need at least one or more people to like get in the middle of that. But I don't know where that's going to come from or how long it's going to take.
Brings up some what ifs though, and I would love to see some comments below about what you think would have happened if Tony Khan would have bought WWE. Would he have kept WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble and all that? Would he have kept certain people on the roster? Would that have been his new focal point even more than AEW? And then he gives AEW to like the Young Bucks and stuff to run, maybe even leaves AEW for WWE. Like, who knows?
The biggest question is what the fuck would have happened to CM Punk?
I have no idea what would happen.
Like he leaves AEW in 2023, and then he comes over. It's just like, oh, I'll come back to WWE next year. It's like, oh hey,
Cody.
And Tony just can't just sitting in the
Cody.
Corner. Yeah, Cody as well.
That would have been right, around the whole like, oh, I'm gonna win the belt at WrestleMania, and it would have been like, are you? Or are you gonna, move along to something else too? I don't know. Yeah, who knows?
I think I was kind of leaning towards us booking a match where if you lose, you can never challenge for the world title ever again.
How about you lose to, and then he picks like one of the people that potentially would have had
one
some
of
issues.
The Americanos, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but like with any other thing that we talked about here, make sure you leave a comment, tell us what you thought about these topics, and of course, we got another round of hot tags coming up next week. But our main event for next week is still a little bit up in the air. If you got any suggestions what you'd like us to do, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. I know that some people are always requesting that we do reaction stuff for old WrestleManias, but like, let's be honest, those are very, very long episodes, and it's quite a bit of commitment. So I don't know if we can do that, but if you want us to do that for sure, that's what the Pick Your Poison is for. If you sponsor it and you pay for that, then we will do it. That's the whole point. If you don't, and it's just a request, then it's something that, probably not doing a 3-hour plus podcast, 4-hour, 5-hour thing or something, but we did that Mount Rushmore. So if you want to, lean us in one direction or another for certain things, let us know that. If not, I don't know what we'll do, but we've got a couple days to figure it out. So make sure that you're checking out everything on the link tree, smarkoutmoment.com stuff, and the Fanboys Anonymous stuff, and my own stuff. We're all at anthonymango.com. So follow those things there. Make sure you're following Callum too.
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. You can find that over at smarkoutmoment.com, where you can also find the Fantasy League, also at wwefantasyleague.com, where you can see how our rosters are heading which direction they're heading as we head towards WrestleMania and the final show where points will be scored and the setting the groundwork for the next year's season.
I don't know for sure what I could do, but just clicking on this and realizing that I still have Royce Keys, I'm gonna drop Royce Keys. No matter what, I'm gonna drop Royce Keys. And,
yeah, probably a good idea.
I think I should have picked up somebody a little bit earlier than that. Is Carmelo Hayes? Oh no, Carmelo Hayes is on Rob's roster, but it's he's still listed on the other thing. I was gonna say, damn, I should have picked up Carmelo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I'll drop Royce Keys for Seth Rollins.
Can't do that. I've got I haven't put Tangent on there, but I have Seth Rollins on my.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then I won't.
Sorry, I haven't been keeping up as much with these things because it's just difficult to do, and it's towards the end of the season, so I lose motivation.
Yeah. Let me double check again. Then other people that are on this roster that are at least free for some of those things. AJ Lee is free, so maybe I'll pick AJ Lee. She'll probably be popping up sometime soon. I mean, no matter what, I'm going to get Royce Keys because Royce Keys is just not showing up. He's just like not getting me any appearance points and stuff. But let's see. Let's go.
Penta's available.
Let's go. I hate to draft him, but let's put Logan Paul on there instead of Royce Keys.
Are you hoping for a tag title victory at WrestleMania?
At the very least, he's going to be appearing on TV. Yeah. And I have Austin Theory, so if they do win those belts, then maybe that's like a double set of points. And then looking at the rest of the roster I've got, there's some people I still kind of would want to get rid of, but I guess I'll keep them because I don't see any really great options.
Yeah. I would say that recently I dropped Jordan Grace for Nikki Bella.
Yeah, makes sense.
Jordan's out injured, and Nikki Bella will probably win the tag titles, if not tonight, then at WrestleMania. So
yeah. So there you go. Some updates on the Fantasy League thing. Probably should have put the Fantasy League graphic up there while I was thinking about that, but I didn't. So there you go. There's the graphic. And vote on that Smark Madness tournament, as I said. And otherwise, just stay tuned for the next round of the hot tags and whatever it is that we are taking care of for next week's episode and stuff like that. So thank you for listening for this one. And thank you for the comments and all your support. And we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment. And we're being counted out.